Marcel, Ahmed, Meg, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you on today. Can you give us some background on the Women's Society of Cyber Jitsu?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think of the group of us, I've probably been involved the longest. I went to my first Cyber Jitsu workshop in 2013 and instantly fell in love with the amazing dynamic of technical hands-on keys training combined with an all-female environment. It was pretty awesome. So as I do, I got super sucked in and became a volunteer, and no looking back since then. Um, Meg
Ahmed,
or
Meg,
Ahmed?
what drew you to Cyber Jitsu?
So I've been a member for about 2 years, and very similar to Marcel, I've I went to something and got kind of sucked in, as we tend to do. The InfoSec community has a very unique camaraderie within it, and when you are extend that to be a all female environment, it really helps people foster and grow kind of their skills.
So I first got introduced to what Women's Society of Cyberjutsu is during the CICI conference 2017. In June 2017, I was attending a workshop that I liked its name a lot. It was about like red and blue teams techniques for some social engineering, to do some social engineering. And I liked the workshop a lot. It was a lot of fun and it was very well designed. And when I went to know how can I use it in my classroom, I figured out that it's already done by the Women's Society of Cyberjutsu. So I asked them to use it in my classroom. They gave me permission, and I figured out that they do a lot of these fun stuff a lot. So I became a member. I attended some of their trainings, and I have also given one training up until now through the Women's Society of Cyberjutsu.
So I know the Women's Society of Cyber Jitsu really wants to make a difference in increasing diversity, especially gender diversity in the cybersecurity workforce. But I also know that men can play a role in this as allies. Is that what your role is in the Women's Society of Cyber Jitsu?
It can be, but I really don't see myself as a very different member. I'm kind of also I share a lot of the psychological challenges that people say women have within the infosec industry. I share it within the whole culture because I'm an international person. So a lot of things that women get challenged by, I also get challenged by. So it's essentially more welcoming to me to be a member of the Women's Society of Cyberjutsu. I don't see myself different.
Great. One of the activities that you're involved with is developing women for cybersecurity competitions. Can you talk about how that got started and why is that a focus of Cyber Jitsu? What's the value of getting women into cyber competitions?
Oh gosh, so there's so many things that I'm thinking about with that right now, but I'm trying to remember how we first got involved with cyber competitions, but I think it was just that there was a group of us, Lisa and Mary, who are original members of the founding group. We just loved doing cyber competitions, so it was a matter of meeting these like-minded ladies, and there was an opportunity that came along to do a cyber competition. I think it was the now defunct MGC3 cyber competition associated with Cyber Maryland. And we got together an all-girls team or all-ladies team, whatever you want to call it, and we went and competed. And, we didn't win, but we had a fabulous time, and we had T-shirts that said Women's Cyber Jitsu, and people were like, wow, it's an all-women's team. So that was just the start of it, and now we regularly compete together in competitions. We do competition practices, which actually this is kind of an exciting thing that we just started doing, Dan. We partnered with a hackerspace in Maryland called Unallocated Space, which is another nonprofit, and they recently spun up a DEF CON group out of their site. So basically between Unallocated Space, DEF CON 443, And Women's Society of Cyber Jiu-Jitsu, we've just launched this monthly competition practice. Had our first one a couple weeks ago, had great turnout, and I would say it was probably 50-50 male female. This is not it's a co-ed event that we were doing these trainings for. So yeah, it's
Ahmed, you recently, I think, participated in the Mid-Atlantic CCDC. Competitions are something you're very involved with as well?
Yes, so we were very fortunate to have um, first year students that came to UVA that were very familiar with the Cyber Patriot, and when they came in with cybersecurity in mind, and they started looking out for putting in a team together to start competing in the CCDC, and it was our first year to compete in the CCDC this year. And through the Computer Network Security Club, they reached out to all the students and found out who are interested in joining the club. One of them was Mariah Kenny. She is a third year student that is very promising. And when they did their trainings, then they decided what roles will everyone get. Mariah was the only female, or is actually the only female on the team, and they figured out that she has very good communication skills, and they decided that she's going to be the team lead or the team captain. And surprisingly, we qualified during the qualifying round. We went to the physical MACCDC final regional final competition, and we won.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. So
it's pretty amazing for a first-time team to win that.
It is. And I was very hands-off in this process. I essentially was making sure that everything's going on right. They are being taken care of. They did all the work. They did all the hard work. I've been watching them all. They did a fantastic job. And they were able to communicate together very, very well. And they always, when anyone ask about the reason for the success, they say because we were able to communicate well and prioritize what we need to do every time.
Meg, you've been at Semantic when they had the Grand Cyber Challenge.
I did. And the group that I'm in now also does some cyber education and some online things. I think one of the reasons that I'm involved in the Women's Society of Cyber Jiu-Jitsu is I have children, and it's when you're in management like I am now, it's a little hard to keep your technical skills up to date. And this is something that I can do with my children, and it keeps my technical skills up to date. So being able to learn those things, and then I go and I teach them to the Cyber Jiu-Jitsu has a girls Cyber Patriot team, both high school and junior high school, middle school, I guess they call it these days, middle school teams. So I notice what you were talking about there. There is a distinct, the middle schoolers, they're on point with their communication. And by the time they get to high school, it's a little more difficult to ingrain those skills in. So the earlier that we can get those skills started, the more natural they become as the young women age. And I think that's so important to get into this field.
Well, that leads me to something that I wanted to mention too. This is sort of a collaborative project that we're doing between the Cyber Jiu-Jitsu girls and Cyber Jiu-Jitsu women. We're about to embark on this, where we're going to have the women who are involved with the competitions committee build challenges for the girls who are in these programs, Cyber Jiu-Jitsu girls and Cyber Patriots and whatnot, to work on. So it's like to build a competition is a fabulous way to learn things yourself. So I love that aspect of it for the women, and then it'll give the girls something to work on as well. So
yeah, that's a very exciting initiative. We've just been kind of forming that up.
Yeah.
So
At what age does the Society of Cyber Jiu-Jitsu start becoming involved in developing young women in cybersecurity?
Well, right now we're targeting middle school, but I mean, I think everybody agrees that the earlier you can get in, the better. Middle school really kind of is like the latest, I think, because once you get to the high school age, you've kind of lost them lot of
Yeah,
times.
you lose a lot of focus at high school.
What do you find when you start introducing this to young women at that age? Is it an awareness that they realize this is something they can do, but they didn't know it existed before? Um, do they like being part of the nurturing environment of cyber jitsu? What is it that you see?
So, well, I can talk specifically about my daughter. So, her middle school has a team. She did not care for it. It was a little too competitive for her in that she said they really wanted them to already know things in order to be on the team, and she didn't think that it was really a learning environment. And when she came to the cyber jitsu girls, she really clicked right away with the other girls that were there because they wanted to learn things, and because they were so good at communication. They get into their Slack channels, they chat about things all the time. And even though they're not in the same school and they don't see each other, they were really bonding over kind of a common interest. And that's why I think at middle school it's really important, because by the time you get to high school, the interests become so much more varied that if you haven't planted the seed by then, it might be a little too late.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Cyber jitsu has several activities, but one activity that I thought was really interesting is you have kind of a way for young women to get a diploma by being involved in workshops during the year. Can you talk about that activity?
Well, we do have ongoing workshops, typically monthly workshops on different technical topics. I believe the current series of workshops is there's a penetration testing one coming up, and then there's some forensics ones coming up as well. So I'm not really sure about the diploma thing, but definitely CPEs and just sort of advancing towards a path in this industry.
Right.
What do you find that the young women who are involved in cyber jitsu are looking for? Do they want to know, is this something I can do? Is this something I can pursue as I go to college? Do you enable them to have the confidence to actually go down this pathway?
So I'm inclined to say yes. Marcel's looking at me to see what I'm going to say. So I'd
I'm
say
going to
yes.
say yes as well.
I think that's a large part of it. And I also think this is something that impacts society. At least the young girls that I've been working with are very interested in making a difference in the world. And they may not be sure of how to do that. And they really see cybersecurity as something that could be impactful as they grow.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the thing about getting more women involved in the field is women, and I don't want to make broad sweeping statements about an entire gender, but I think it's pretty well documented that women they lean towards like the helping professions. They want to make a difference, make a change, and cybersecurity can definitely be that. And as long as you see the right path and you see the right mentors and that sort of thing. It's not the 400-pound hacker in his mother's basement stereotype or whatever.
Just so you know, my son on his Cyber Patriot team had shirts made up that said 400-pound hacker
They were
because
having fun
together they probably weighed 400 pounds.
Like that.
Do you ever get a chance to spend time with parents of young women in cyber jitsu, and what is that like? What kind of communication do you have? What kind of conversations do you have?
Well, so the girls in cyber jitsu, sometimes the parents come and sit in on the sessions because they're interested in it as well. And I also think there's a large responsibility for those of us in InfoSec to communicate to parents, because the privacy and security of their children is kind of their responsibility to a certain point. And if they don't understand what they're looking at or what some of the challenges are, so we do spend some time with them just trying to explain what it is, because I don't want their children going home and kind of messing up their home computer and outpacing the parents. And so they see the value in that.
I know. I think pretty much every single different like girls outreach thing I do where the parents are there, the parents like ask more questions than the girls do, and they get a little freaked out because they just don't realize, things about like geotagging and
is
that.
a big one.
It's not something that they're aware of, but I feel like we can help equip them by including them in the conversation with their kids.
So they gain an appreciation of how important this is and how it affects them.
Right.
Um, have you been able to see some of the young women in cyber jiu-jitsu as they've moved up the path and gone to high school and gone to college? Do you have any stories
Yes.
about particular ones you can
I'm
tell?
leaving that to you.
Yes, actually, so there's one young lady who's gone through cyber jitsu training and cyber patriot and whatnot. And actually, at a recent conference, she was there competing with, an adult team on a capture the flag challenge. And she also now teaches other students how to do these things. So yeah, and that's an amazing thing that I think we can encourage more of. It's just that you go through the pipeline and then you come back and you help.
Who do you partner with? Do you partner with high schools, colleges, industry, all of the above? Who are the partners for cyber jiu-jitsu?
Oh goodness, well it really is kind of all of the above. There's an issue of scalability because I feel like almost every single school wants us to come and do like a cyber thing for them, and we're an entirely volunteer run organization, so we just don't have the manpower to do that. But we do partner with a lot of different schools. We partner with Girl Scouts, we partner with private sector, we partner with different colleges, so pretty much everybody you can think of is sort of a player in this field.
Meg, how does Semantic look at an organization like cyber jiu-jitsu, and beyond that, how does Semantic look at the value of cybersecurity competitions?
So I think cybersecurity competitions, I do a talk fairly regularly on cybersecurity competitions because I think it's a learning opportunity that a lot of people overlook. That if you don't win, maybe I shouldn't even try. But the competition itself exposes you to so many scenarios that it should just be looked at as a learning experience. And as you discovered, if you win, you win. That's an added bonus, but you can learn so much just from the experience. So really, Semantic tries to foster that. And we have an incredible opportunity if you're a Semantic employee, because if you partner with somebody like Cyber Jitsu, Semantic actually funds some of our time there, and they help give back in that area. So it's a win-win for everybody in that case.
Ahmed, in most college classrooms in computer science and cybersecurity, it's mostly men. Are you seeing a change occurring, or are you hoping that involvement in cyber jiu-jitsu can help make that change occur?
Absolutely. So one of the main things that I've noticed, and Marcel have mentioned before, is that when you get stuck, nobody just like laughs at you or say like you don't know what you're doing. Instead, they try to explain to you what's the problem and they try to help you. And this is what we always do at UVA. That's why we end up with well above the national average of women studying computing in the Department of Computer Science. We have more about like something around like 30 something or 40% of faculty are women. We give leadership roles to any student who demonstrates their ability to hold that role. So we share a lot of the values and concepts that with the Women's Society of Cyber Jiu-Jitsu.
You do a lot with young women, but you also do a lot with women that have been in the workforce for a while, or women who are transitioning into the cybersecurity workforce, and that involves competitions as well. Can you talk about a few of those activities?
Yeah, absolutely. So, cyber jiu-jitsu really focuses on sort of the hands-on key skills. There's a lot of people who come to us who've gotten, say a master's degree from whatever university, and they have a lot of, sort of theoretical knowledge, but they don't really know like how to do things. So that's what we really help people with. It's kind of our whole thing. And cyber competitions perfectly play into that because it is about doing things. And in fact, recently, actually like last weekend, there was an all-female hackathon that HackEd or HackEducate put on. And of course, there's a bunch of cyber jitsu ladies who were like, oh, you heard about this? Let's go do this together. So we did. We showed up like half a dozen of us out of probably 30 people. And it was awesome. But one of the cool things that they did with that is they asked for people who were experienced doing competitions to split up from their teams and partner with new people, and that was cool.
I really believe in the value of role models, and I think three of you are definitely role models to aspire to. But how do you see us going forward in providing the role models of the future? I do think that the women who start in middle school, they, in addition to looking at the adults, they look at high school students. The high school students look at college students. And is Cyber Jutsu involved in nurturing role models like that as well?
I'm inclined to say yes.
I would agree.
You tell me if I'm wrong, but even just at events like we're at today, where I don't know, have we said
Women's
where we are?
Society,
Thank you.
Women in Cybersecurity, WSCNICEPodcast. We're at WSCNICEPodcast today.
Right, which, that's a perfect opportunity. There are high school teams here interacting with college students who are interacting with women who have been in the industry
yeah.
for quite some time, and that's a perfect kind of mix of seeing growth in your career and what is actually possible.
Yeah, I mean, and so I can't even say enough about how women cyberjutsu really changed my life in terms of just knowing that there's other women out there who are interested in these things as well. I've made so many connections, and I say connections, I really mean friends, right? So I can go to any conference really and know that I will have like some cadre of females there that like-minded.
Another concept is the concept of community. And I really believe that the more we nurture a community, the more we're going to have more entering the community. Mm-hmm. How do you view Women's Society of Cyberjutsu becoming engaged in increasing the community and having certainly young women feel that they belong in the community?
So we have a few different initiatives that are going on in terms of what I'm involved with the competition side of things is we're working on building out an actual competition that anybody can do, right? But we're going to gear it towards students and not necessarily just girls as well, but just as a way to increase exposure to the field. But I think you touched on a really important thing, Dan. It's you have to see people who you can relate to, mm-hmm. who are doing things that
right at all stages of their career,
stages.
Right? And that was something that it's super important. You don't just go to management, or you don't just go and get into this pigeonhole, especially in cybersecurity. It is an ever-changing field. So it's very important that they understand there are all these different roles that are possible.
What is on your wish list for Cyberjutsu? If there was a place that Women's Society of Cyberjutsu could be 5 years from now, what would that be? How would you measure that you're going where you want to be going with Cyberjutsus? And you can talk about where that would be in competitions as well.
Right. So, well, ideally, in my dream world, we would have fabulous sponsors that would enable us to have like a conference like the one that we're at right now, the WSCNICEPodcast, but more geared towards competitions and have different levels of competitions and so on and so forth. But I would love, love, love to see that. But we definitely could use some sponsors. I'm just going to throw that out there. We're really bad at that.
Ahmed, how would you measure success 5 years from now?
I would measure success by seeing more conferences inviting people from the Women's Society of Cyberjutsu to speak to the community about what they're doing. We have recently seen some humps and dumps about conferences that say there's not enough women to speak or give speeches mm-hmm. To the community and the cybersecurity community, which is not real. No. There's a lot there that can really help. Marcel is one of them. I have personally attended some of her workshops. I took it back to my classroom, and I always feel responsible telling them who made this material. And I have to mention her name. I feel very proud of it, and I want everybody to be very, very shareable and very open to share what they do, like what Marcel do, because she helps the community a lot.
Meg?
And I'd say the same thing. I think in 5 years, if I was at a conference and somebody said, I really got my start or found my community with Women's Society and Cyber Jiu-Jitsu, that's a win.
Yeah.
You know, that's where you want to be.
It has been a pleasure having you on the podcast today. I really wish Women's Society of Cyber Jiu-Jitsu best of success in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.